Gerson, Maury, okay, if you just got your homework together, thank you. The first thing I'd like to do today is put the stars on the study guide. Assuming technology doesn't fail us, this will be available on the internet this afternoon. In case technology does fail us, you may want to take note on your papers. On your study guide, in case you didn't gather it, please write 7.1 through 7.5, bills or a stamped note, the energy use inventory, the don't lose this paper, and if you participated, any extra credit write-ups from Unit 7. The first thing today will be stars. There are some study goals that we haven't finished yet, like the last couple in nuclear power. And there are also some study goals that we never started at all, the reading packet and movie questions. Reading packet we'll discuss a little bit. Movie questions, since you could not see the movie, I will have to lecture you the answers to those study goals. We'll do that last. So we will do stars, finish nuclear, discuss the reading packet, and discuss the movie questions for a movie you never saw. Questions?
What does it say after DUI homework?
Extra credit write-ups. Oh, it says don't lose this. Yeah.
When do you go through the articles on Facebook?
What?
When do you look at it?
Probably tonight. Sometimes I'll even do it after the unit. Yeah.
What does it say about DUI?
Bill. Yes.
I know.
Yes, please. Are there any other questions? So first thing will be the stars. The first, I'm going in the order of the study guide. Yes? Yeah, that's fine. You may want to bring it to me to verify that the stamp is visible and it's not a sort of So stars in the order that they appear in the study guide, starting in vocab, first and second law of thermodynamics, electrical resistivity, energy efficiency, cogeneration. Next assignment, acid mine drainage, heat, depositional basin, and fractional distillation. In that vocab, I may not have clarified why acid mine drainage is an important concept. Remember that stuff that's buried underground hasn't been exposed to very much oxygen in a long time. There are chemicals underground which react with oxygen. They oxidize when they're brought to the surface. The same way that iron will rust when it's exposed to water. The reason this is important you bring it out of the ground, it'll oxidize, and then critical concept for all of you to know from now on in our class is this. Anything with an oxygen, that's called an oxide. Oxides mixed with water make acids. So anything which oxidizes, if you bring it to the surface after it rains, you'll get acid runoff. That's kind of a big deal. Because all those things would have entered our biosphere very, very slowly. But if Ian starts a big iron mine and digs up millions of pounds of iron, that's going to create a lot of iron oxide plus water makes acid runoff. And that acid drainage is a big impact of mines and also holes in the ground like we use for fossil fuels. Acid mine drainage. Yeah. Well, if it doesn't get wet, so the stream is one way for it to get wet. But yeah, the key issue is the water. You know, a lot of acids happen in the atmosphere. All rain is acid rain because CO2, that O2 is an oxide, carbon dioxide. So in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide plus water make carbonic acid, and all rain is slightly acidic. That's one of the reasons that rain wears away rocks so well, because all rain is slightly acidic. Yeah.
Are there any steps taken to prevent what comes out from getting wet?
Yeah, I mean, you can cover it up with a tarp, or you can rebury it, and that would help you avoid the acid mine drainage. We also go to great lengths to limit sulfur oxides and nitrogen oxides from entering the atmosphere so that they won't make acid rain. The reason I introduce this concept now is we're talking about extraction of coal and other fossil fuels, and that leaves a lot of stuff on the surface which can oxidize and then make acid drainage. Okay, back to the stars. In the third cluster of vocab, digestion is a key term. And don't forget we talked about aerobic versus anaerobic digestion. In the nuclear chapter, there's so much vocab, but some of the really critical stuff that I'm sure you'll see somewhere in the next couple of months: fission, enrichment, moderation, and chain reaction.
What is moderation?
Moderation is to control the reaction, the rate of the reaction. So moderation is the way you control a reactor by managing the neutrons.
And also passive
passive safety is ways to keep a nuclear plant safe passively, like without having to do work. So for example, what if you have your nuclear reactor suspended over a pool of neutron-absorbing liquid? If there's a meltdown, the stuff will fall into the pool and that'll slow things down, right? That's called passive safety. Because in the absence of you doing something, it still keeps you safe.
Is that something that's implicated?
Yeah, so we're starting to do more and more and more passive safety methods in nuclear power plants. Yeah, they're becoming more common. Back in the day, the very first nuclear power plants had very little automation because electronics were a lot less smart than they are today. So somebody had to press the button to drop the boron. Now someone has to press the button to remove the boron. So in the absence of action, it's still safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
in the study goals, I know you haven't answered these, but 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 10 gets 3 stars. Number 11 gets 3 stars. 13 gets 2. And you might want to put a note to look on the Facebook group, because on the day that we had that lecture, Guy Hewlett posted the image of American energy budget. That may also be in your book, right? That one about the energy sources and uses. Not in the book?
The one you're showing.
Yeah.
And it's also like the fourth result if you search like U.S. energy.
Okay, so if you Google U.S. energy budget or check the Facebook group, you'll find that image I used in my PowerPoint. Number 14 gets 1 star for the best targets for efficiency. Moving on to 7.3, 19 gets 3 stars. 20 gets a star. 23 gets a couple. 25 gets a star, 26 gets 2, and we did not discuss that one in class. 27 gets a star. In assignment 7.4, 29 gets 2 stars, but now you're really going to hate me. 30 to 35 each get a star. Let me explain why. The College Board, whenever they ask you about a problem, in the next sentence, they're going to ask you about a solution or an alternative. It's just how the College Board works. They like to balance the test so it's not all problems, it's not all bad news. And so, whatever they tell you, whatever kind of question they ask about fossil fuels, the very next question will be, describe an alternative to using fossil fuels, or how does solar power work? I don't know which alternative they might ask you about. That's why I spent 2 days drawing all of them. So the more alternatives you know, the better. These are conceptual. You don't have to be like a brilliant engineer to understand these basics. So we talked about ocean generation, tidal, geothermal, wind, hydro, all that stuff, 30 to 35. And don't forget that in number 29, we made a distinction between on-grid, off-grid, and then we added solar thermal. Number 36 gets 3 stars. Because we talked about how to control the reaction, and we talked about what enrichment is, and we talked about the way that nuclear power plants are run. In 39, there was something we didn't discuss very much. The way that radioactivity enters your body. Those were the radioactive pathways. Number 41 gets a star, and 42 gets a star. 42 also goes with article number 50 in your reader.